The call came at a time when the world sleeps, but danger never does. Before we continue, make sure to subscribe. The phone's ring shattered the midnight silence. My hand paused mid-sip of cold coffee, the room otherwise still. The voice on the other end was calm, almost casual, but each word dripped with arrogance. Your daughter forgot her place. My boy reminded her. I didn't answer. I never did. Silence has a weight men like me understand. Men who'd stared into the void more times than they can count. Silence unnerves predators. He sensed it, filled the void with his own confidence. Consider this a warning. Keep her on a leash. Click. The word struck deep. But the anger I felt wasn't the kind that screams. It was the kind that plans, waits, and delivers. For 25 years, I'd lived in the shadows. Presidents, generals, untouchable men, gone in ways no one would ever know. I had erased lives the way chalk disappears from a blackboard. And now, someone thought they could threaten my daughter and make me swallow it? No. That wasn't a warning. That was a confession of weakness. And weakness has only one answer. The hospital smelled of antiseptic and sorrow. My daughter lay on the bed, bruises forming a map across her pale skin. Ribs broken, lips trembling as she muttered fragments of sentences, half-conscious. I sat beside her, silent, counting each mark as if I could somehow assign numbers to the injustice done. When she finally opened her eyes, she avoided mine. Shame radiated off her like heat from an open flame. I asked one question, simple, necessary. Why him? Her eyes welled up, not with confusion, but with recognition. The kind of understanding that comes when the truth is too heavy to speak aloud. And in that silence, I saw it. The late-night calls, the secretive whispers, the money vanishing from her account. Subtle clues only a man who'd navigated shadows for decades could decode. This wasn't coincidence. She hadn't merely fallen for a mobster's son. She had been guided, placed, manipulated. Someone had orchestrated her path with precision. I started quietly, methodically. Phone records, digital footprints, financial traces. I had done this before for governments, empires, and now it was just as easy. Her messages told me the story she hadn't dared say aloud. Secret meetings, hotel rooms, words that weren't about love, they were chains. Then the trail shifted. A second number. A second name she had thought inconspicuous. Professor. Cross-referencing details, movement patterns, and contacts, the truth became undeniable. She hadn't simply been seduced. She had been delivered into the hands of someone she trusted. Someone with access, influence, and a plan to use me. The betrayal wasn't random. It was surgical. And then the camera feed arrived. Hotel security footage. There she was, my wife, walking my daughter straight into the lion's den, smiling, leaving her there because she trusted her mother. I watched the footage over and over. Each time my chest remained still, my breath measured. Anger was a luxury I abandoned decades ago. What came instead was clarity. That evening I set the printed images on the kitchen counter. She entered, froze, lips parting in shock. Lies tried to escape her immediately. "It's not what it looks like. You don't understand. She needed discipline." I stopped her. One word. Why? Her composure cracked. Excuses tumbled like dominoes. Survival instincts clawed through her voice. Threats, debts, desperation. But the truth hid between the syllables. She hadn't been coerced. She had been complicit. I didn't shout. I didn't touch her. Instead, I placed a single envelope on the table. Inside were all the records, messages, and proof of her betrayal. I said simply, "Take it. Run to him. See if he protects you when I'm done." Her hands shook. She didn't need to look inside. She already knew. Then I added, almost gently, "Lesson 1. Pain has memory. You'll carry this one forever." Her face collapsed into silent terror. By dawn, the estate was silent. The mob boss and his guards, gone. Efficiently, cleanly, every move precise, a shadow of the life I once led. But the true lesson had already been delivered, not with a gun or a blade, but with truth. And somewhere in the quiet, the rot of betrayal began to surface, the betrayal that would haunt her mother forever. But even as the sun rose, casting light over a world unaware of the carnage that had passed, I knew this was only the beginning. The real enemy wasn't the mob, and it wasn't even the boy. The question that burned hotter than any anger was, what was my wife really planning, and how deep did her betrayal go?
Betrayal leaves footprints, and I intended to follow every single one. Before we continue, make sure to subscribe. The sun had barely risen when I left the estate. Quiet streets, empty sidewalks, but in the shadows I could feel the aftermath of the night's work lingering. My daughter would survive. Slowly, painfully, but survival didn't erase memory. And for people like her, memory was a weapon. I walked alone, thinking, calculating. The mob boss's son was alive, barely, but alive enough to tell me everything I needed to know. His arrogance hadn't died in him yet, but fear had carved out a new space inside him. One look from me had rewritten his understanding of power. Yet the real threat loomed elsewhere. My wife. She had delivered my daughter into danger, not under duress, not under pressure. She had smiled while doing it. And smiles are often more dangerous than knives. They hide intent. I returned to the house later that morning. She was already there, moving with the practiced grace of someone who thinks they are untouchable. The envelope had vanished from the table. My daughter had not taken it, but someone else had. My wife had taken it. She turned to me, calm, her eyes too steady, too composed. "I did what had to be done," she said. I didn't respond. "I protected you," she continued. "I protected the family." "Protected?" I finally said, voice low, controlled. "You handed her over, and you did it knowing exactly what she would face." Her smile faltered for a heartbeat, but she caught it. "You don't understand," she said, almost pleading. "This wasn't about her. It was about all of us. You think you've lived in danger your whole life, but I've been living it too, quietly, carefully, watching everything, waiting." I leaned closer. "And the boy, my daughter, did they ever matter to you, or were they just pieces on your board?" She looked away. That was my confirmation. Everything I had suspected, every instinct honed over decades screamed at me. She had a reason, a plan, a motive buried so deep I couldn't see it at first. But now it was clear. This was bigger than just betrayal. It was chess, and I had just realized I'd been playing the wrong pieces. I spent the next hours tracing every interaction my wife had orchestrated. Emails, bank transfers, even casual conversations she assumed I never noticed. They all painted a picture. A network of contacts, some old, some new, converging toward a single purpose, weakening me, drawing me into traps, controlling the one thing I could not allow to be controlled, my family. By evening, I had a plan. I called my daughter to the study. She walked in, tentative, eyes wide but cautious. The room smelled of old leather and paper, my sanctuary, my battlefield. "I need you to understand something," I said, placing the envelope in front of her. Her eyes flicked to it, then back to me. Fear, shame, guilt, they all swirled together in that glance. "Everything in here, it's the truth. Not my version, not hers, not his. The truth. Look at it and understand what's real." She hesitated. Then, slowly, deliberately, she picked up the envelope. The weight of it seemed physical, pressing against her chest. I, she started, but words failed her. "Don't speak yet," I said. "First, you need to see what's been done. Who has been using you and why? And most importantly, who is still in the shadows?" Her lips trembled. A tear slid down her cheek. "Mom?" "Yes," I said. "And she's been playing a game we didn't even know existed." The revelation hit her like a blow. Not just her mother, but the person she had trusted above all others. Guiding, manipulating, controlling. I gave her time. I let the silence fill the room. Silence, after all, can be louder than screams. Then I spoke again. "You have to remember something always. Pain teaches. Betrayal teaches faster. But the real lesson is watching, learning, preparing. Do not let anyone blindside you again. Not him, not her, not anyone." She nodded barely, the kind of nod that carries the weight of understanding, acceptance, and fear all at once. Night fell, and I left again. This time I moved through the streets differently. No coffee, no reflection, just precision. I needed answers. Someone in my wife's network had to be neutralized before they could strike again. The mob boss's son was first. He was easy. Arrogance made him sloppy. His guards, their loyalty untested against real fear, fell one by one. The lessons I had taught in part one were enough. Efficiency, precision, control. No mess, no theatrics, just truth delivered in action. But the real target wasn't him. It was the one orchestrating everything behind my back. My wife's allies, those silent, smiling faces that thought themselves untouchable. I traced them slowly, deliberately. Each step had to be flawless. One mistake, one false move, and everything would collapse. Not just my plan, but my family. I returned home before dawn. My daughter slept fitfully, the evidence envelope now locked in her drawer. She was safe, for now. But safety is fragile, like glass, and it shatters without warning. I stood at the window. looking at the city waking beneath me. The mob boss's empire lay in ruins, but the real war was only beginning. Betrayal had roots deeper than I had imagined. It had grown inside my own home, my own family. And I realized, love is dangerous. Trust is a weapon. But knowledge is the sharpest blade of all. I turned from the window. My daughter stirred. Her eyes opened just long enough to meet mine. In that glance, I saw fear, but also understanding. I whispered, almost to myself, "We survive, we fight, and we remember." Because in this life, after 25 years in the shadows, you learn one undeniable truth. The people you trust most are often the ones who teach the harshest lessons. And sometimes, the only way to protect those you love is to become the storm they never saw coming. Outside, the world seemed peaceful, the streets quiet. But in the shadows, a new move was being made. A hand reaching from the past, a smile hiding intent, a betrayal yet to reveal itself. The real game hadn't even begun.